This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another episode of Backlog of Shame. I'm going to do my BFI and my Eureka Masters of Cinema shameful backlog. I will have an excuse for most of these, and there will be some stories attached, because some films I have seen, but just not on Blu-ray, so they do go into the backlog until I've watched them on Blu-ray, or at least had a look at them on Blu-ray. So there's a pile of these films that I have actually seen, but it's been on DVD, and I want to see that huge upgrade on Blu-ray. So we'll just start and get this another shameful episode out of the way. So I'll start with some BFI box sets. So I have Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the BFI Derek Jarman box sets. That's actually Volume 2, which is 87 to 94, and Volume 1 is 72 to 86. I mean, I kind of got these because Jarman's an interesting guy. Obviously I did a random review on The Angelic Conversation, because the soundtrack to that was done by Coil, who are a band I really like. But also Tilda Swinton started with Derek Jarman and is in a few of his films. So to get The Angelic Conversation on Blu-ray was one of the reasons, because it is a wonderfully odd film, and again the soundtrack by Coil is one of Coil's most wonderful works, and it's Judi Dench reading sonnets by Shakespeare. And then we have Wittgenstein. I mean, I think I've actually mixed these up from what is actually in the certain box sets. Jubilee, The Tempest. Jarman did love his Shakespeare. And then Blue. So I think I've actually got the contents of Volume 2 in the Volume 1 box. So that's the Jarman Volume 1. And Volume 2. Again, with BFI you do get big thick books as well. So we've got The Garden and Edward II. And we've got The Last of England with Tilda Swinton. And we've got War Requiem, which I think I did a random review of, again with Tilda Swinton and Sean Bean. That's an excellent film. Caravaggio, and In the Shadow of the Sun and Sebastian, which I have not watched yet. So that's the two Derek Jarman box sets. Again, I've seen some of them, haven't seen others. And I will get to, because as again, if you don't know, one of the reasons that I am moving is to get closer to work, so I will actually gain 2 hours a day being at home. Then we have the BFI Pasolini set, which again I believe I have seen all of these, but again I haven't seen them on Blu-ray. I've obviously seen the knockabout comedy Sallow on Blu-ray. I don't know the criterion for that, and you do get a nice booklet. So I doubt I'll get the Criterion box set unless it goes really, really cheap. Teorma, which is arguably my favourite Pasolini. Canterbury Tales. Again, I've seen all of these on DVD, but I haven't seen them all actually on Blu-ray. Decameron. Medea. and Arabian Nights. And of course he did that trilogy of the Cameron Canterbury Tales, Arabian Nights, which almost celebrates life, celebrates sexuality. And then of course he does Sallow, which is like arguably the most nihilistic film ever made. The Dreyer set, yes, I still haven't watched all the Dreyer films. I will at some point. So this is the documentary, Day of Wrath and Ordette. This is Gertrude and Master of the House. And then the Corrida set. Again, I've seen some Corrida, I haven't seen a lot of Corrida. Nobody Knows. Afterlife. As you may or may not know, my favourite Corrida is Airdoll, but that probably says more about me than it does Corrida. Mabarose, which I have seen on DVD, just haven't seen it on Blu-ray. Again, lovely thick booklet. And Still Walking, which I have seen in Blu-ray because I've got a plain archive of it. I really do like Still Walking. And then the wonderful Herzog BFI set on Blu-ray. Now I have seen just about all of these, but again it was a long time ago and it was on either television or DVD, so I have not seen all of these on Blu-ray. If I win the lottery, I may buy the Shout Factory 2 collection box sets of Herner Herzog, because they also have some of his documentaries on Blu-ray as well, all in those 2 box sets, but they are really expensive. So this has The Unprecedented Defence of the Fortress, Dutch Cruise from 67, Last Words from 68, Precautions Against Fanatics from 69, Handicapped Future from 70. I'm not actually sure I've seen any of those early ones. Fata Morgana from 71, Land of Silence and Darkness from 71, Aguirre Wrath of God from 72, Enigma Caspar Hauser from 74, Great Ecstasy of Woodcarver Steiner 75, Heart of Glass 76, How Much Wood Would Wood Chuck Chuck 1976, Strosek from 77, Nosferatu the Vampire, one of the greatest remakes of all time 1979, Wozniak from 79, Huey's Sermon from 80, God's Angry Man, Fitzcarraldo from 82, and Cobra Verde from 87. So this is a really extensive set. There's a Guardian lecture with Herzog. It does include Burden of Dreams by Les Blanc, and Werner Herzog Eats His Shoe by Les Blanc, and there's an on-set documentary of on Nosferatu, and there's full-length commentaries with Herzog, because again he is one of the greatest people just to sit and listen to. He is hilarious, and of course, as you all know, he is a truly tremendous actor as well. The Rossellini Bergman collection, Rossellini's War Trilogy is absolutely spectacular. Again, I haven't seen a bunch of Rossellini films and I've still to watch these ones, which is ridiculous because Journey to Italy obviously has George Sanders as well, so I don't really understand why I haven't watched that yet. El Sur, we're on to the individual titles now. The Killing of a Chinese Bookie I have had for probably about 4 or 5 years and I still haven't watched it. I have not seen any Cassavetes films, I will admit that. Again, he's a filmmaker I respect, but I just haven't actually watched any of his films. One of my favourite films of him as an actor is Crime in the Streets by Don Siegel, which sadly you can't get on physical media, where I think he was probably in his 20s playing like a 16-year-old. It's quite wonderful. Kon Ichikawa's An Actor's Revenge. Yep, still haven't watched that either. I've had that for years. Abel Gance's J'accuse. Peter Greenaway's The Belly of an Architect. Now I have watched this a long time ago, but again, I think it was just on television, so I haven't actually seen it on Blu-ray. And just make up for it, The Draftsman's Contract with Peter Greenaway. Still haven't watched that either. Kenneth Anger, The Magic Lantern Cycle. Obviously, still haven't watched that because this is a backlog of shame after all. And here is obviously the pile that some people give me the most grief about. An Autumn Afternoon by Ozu. Late Autumn by Ozu. Early Summer by Ozu. So it's not as if I don't have the titles, I just haven't got around to watch them, because again, in my mind, Ozu's milieu isn't really my kettle of fish, but again, Tokyo Story's a masterpiece, Late Spring's a masterpiece, and that is the only two Ozus that I've actually watched, but it's not as if I have an excuse. Pasolini by Abel Ferreira. There's just something about it. I love Abel Ferreira, love Pasolini, and love Willem Dafoe, but there's just something stopping me actually watching it. Visconti's The Leopard. Again, I saw this years ago, just haven't seen it on Blu-ray yet. Oh, we're back to more Ozu. This is 3 melodramas on DVD. So Tokyo Twilight, Women of Tokyo, and Early Spring. So it's not as if I don't have them. Science is Fiction, which is available also on Criterion. This is the films of Jean Levy. Again, I really should have watched this before, but I haven't. I blame YouTube and the YouTube community for all their recommendations, which I then have to buy, obviously, and I then have to watch. It's not my fault at all. The fairy tale films of Lotte Reniger. Again, I should have watched this a long time ago. And I recently did a Faust, Jan Svankmajer. I also did Alice this year as well, and I've got his complete short films to watch. I've also got Conspirators of Pleasure and Lunacy. At some point I was going to do a series on him, but I'll probably just end up just doing random reviews on all of his stuff. So that's the complete short films, which is 3 discs. There is a disc of extras, but there's 3 discs of his short films, if you want to have some nightmares. So that's my BFI backlog. I should admit, seeing this is all about shame, that BFI are actually doing a 2, is it? No, it's a 3 for 20, or is it 2 for 20? I've forgotten already. And I did order some titles, which I should be getting at the beginning of this week, which will obviously be added to the backlog of shame, but I won't show them off at this point. So let's talk about Eureka Masters of Cinema, which I do have a bunch of their titles, but of course I also have a bunch of their titles in the backlog. Again, I have seen some of these, but I just haven't seen them on Blu-ray, so it still counts as a backlog item. And of course some of them are DVD and some of them are Blu-ray, and of course they gave the same number to their DVDs and their Blu-rays, even though they might be different films, which is a little bit weird. Kurosawa's The Idiot, which is DVD, spine number 16. Again, I saw this years ago on a fairly bad DVD with bad subtitles, and I just haven't revisited it, bizarrely. Silence, again, saw it a long time ago, need to rewatch it. This is number 44 on the DVD line. Fritz Lang's The Tiger Reshampur, and that's Indus Grabmal. still to watch them. Sorry, they're 106 and 107. And 122 is the complete existing films of Seido Yamanaka. Still haven't watched them either. Which is Tansazen, The Million Ryo Pot, Kochiyama Shosen, and Humanity and Paper Balloons. Now on to the Blu-rays of shame. Imamura's Vengeance is Mine, which is number 11 on the Masters of Cinema. Monty Hellman's Two Lane Blacktop, on 26. Again, I'm sure I saw this years ago. Possibly on Moviedrome. Was it on Moviedrome? It might have been in Moviedrome. Obviously, Vanishing Point was in Moviedrome. I don't know. Somebody can obviously tell me. Punishment Park by Peter Watkins. Again, saw it years ago. Still haven't rewatched it on Blu-ray. Oh, it's another Ozu film. Floating Weeds. This is by number 41. So it's not as if I don't have Ozu to watch. I just haven't watched them. Senju Suzuki's Youth of the Beast. Number 96. Spine number 100 to 104 is Showa and 4 films after Showa, which I haven't seen the 4 films after Showa, but I have seen Showa. Oh, I recorded it off the television when it was on in BBC Two, I don't know, in the 90s. Absolutely, it will destroy you, basically. So I haven't rewatched it on Blu-ray yet. I'll have to pick a nice Saturday night to watch Showa. Just one of the greatest achievements ever. Oshima's Cruel Story of Youth. This is number 118. Visconti's Rocco and His Brothers, 133. Another film I really should have watched by now. Pasolini's Pigstyes, Hawks and Sparrows. Again, saw this years ago. Still haven't watched it on Blu-ray. That's 136, 137. Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Journey to the Shore, which is 138. Like a bit of Kiyoshi Kurosawa, still haven't watched that one. A couple of Murnaus out of the Murnau set. Tartuffe, 144, and Schloss Vergold, 140. Hao Zhen's Daughter of the Nile, 165. Louis Buñuel's Death in the Garden. Yep, still haven't watched it, had it for ages, 167. Dreyer's Michael, had it for ages, still haven't watched it, 183. Might do a Dreyer mini season, who knows. Early Hao Zhen, 3 films from 80 to 83. This is 188 and 190. This is Cute Girl, The Green Green Grass of Home, and The Boys from Fenghui. Showa The Four Sisters. I know Nazrin Prod did a video on that because he went through a Holocaust phase. We all do. This is number 202. Yeah, again, I have to wait for a Saturday night. 211 is Coming Home, Bruce Dern and John Voight and Jane Fonda, by Hal Ashby. I really should have watched that as well, because we all like a bit of Hal Ashby. And finally, The Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith, which again I saw years ago. I did have a German Blu-ray, but I upgraded it to the Masters of Cinema. This is 212, by Fred Shepsey, from 1978. This has got a 122-minute cut and a 117-minute cut. The 122 is the Australian version. So that's my Masters of Cinema. I would say, oh yeah, I like to keep on top of the Masters of Cinema, but as you can see, I've kind of let that go. It's all these Italian films and Czech films and Shaw Brothers sets and 4Ks and it's Brexit and COVID and sunspots and the cost of living crisis and the Cuban Missile Crisis and Chernobyl. That's what's caused me to not watch these films and have a backlog. So thanks very much for watching this second episode of Backlog of Shame. I'm not proud of it. My backlog might be bigger than some people's films collections, which doesn't make me happy in any way, and I do think at some point I will die before I actually watch my backlog. But don't worry, I will get cremated with my backlog, just to clear it finally. Or if not, I'll just have my backlog thrown in the gutter with my lifeless corpse. So on that bombshell, thanks very much for watching this second episode of Backlog of Shame, a BFI and Eureka M.O.C special. And hopefully you'll join me again for more shame. You can hear in the background, that's the police about to arrive to arrest me for having way too many Blu-rays in my backlog. So thanks very much for watching. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films. Going away to flagitate myself and saying farewell.